In the bustling heart of Madrid, where the evening sun dipped low behind the Gran Via's towering facades, casting long shadows over the crowded sidewalks, Javier Ruiz hurried along with his 7-year-old daughter, Sofia clutching her small hand tightly. The single dad, a widower for 3 years since a tragic car accident claimed his wife, balanced 2 jobs, a mechanic by day and a delivery driver by night, to keep their modest apartment afloat. Sofia's wide eyes sparkled with excitement as she chattered about her school day, her backpack bouncing against her back. But Javier's mind was elsewhere, replaying the doctor's words from that morning. Sofia's rare heart condition needed surgery soon, and the costs were astronomical. He pushed the worry down, forcing a smile for his little girl. Little did he know this ordinary evening stroll would collide with destiny in the form of 3 rowdy men and a woman who seemed worlds apart from his struggles. Elena Vargas, the CEO of a thriving tech conglomerate that spanned Europe and Latin America, stepped out of her sleek black sedan, her high heels clicking against the pavement. At 42, she was a force of nature, sharp-suited with a reputation for cutting through boardrooms like a blade. But tonight, after a grueling day negotiating a multi-million-euro merger, she craved nothing more than a quiet walk to her favorite cafe for a cortado. Her driver had pulled over early at her request. She needed the air, the anonymity of the crowd. Yet as she turned the corner, 3 burly men reeking of cheap beer and misplaced bravado blocked her path. "Hey, Princessa," one sneered, his eyes raking over her with crude intent. "You look too fancy for these streets. Need some real company?" The others laughed, closing in, their harassment escalating from words to a threatening grab at her arm. Elena's heart raced, but she stood tall, her voice steady. "Back off now." Javier and Sofia were just a few paces away when the scene unfolded. He froze, his protective instincts flaring like a match in the dark. Sofia tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Papa, those men are being mean." Without a second thought, Javier stepped forward, his voice booming with an authority born from years of shielding his daughter from the world's harsh edges. "Leave her alone," he shouted, positioning himself between Elena and the trio. The men turned, sizing up this unassuming man in worn jeans and a faded jacket. "Mind your business, cabron," the leader growled, shoving Javier's shoulder. But Javier didn't budge. He was no stranger to scraps. Growing up in a rough barrio had taught him to stand his ground. "I said, leave her alone," he repeated, his eyes fierce, thinking only of Sofia watching and the injustice unfolding. The men hesitated, then lunged, but Javier dodged the first punch, landing a solid one of his own that sent the leader stumbling. The crowd began to murmur, phones emerging to record, and the harassers, sensing trouble, muttered curses and slunk away into the alley. Elena straightened her coat, her breath steadying as the adrenaline ebbed. She turned to Javier, her expression unreadable behind her composed facade. But her first words weren't "thank you." Instead, she said, "You're Javier Ruiz, aren't you? From the old neighborhood in Lavapié." Javier blinked, stunned. How could this elegant woman know his name? Sofia peeked from behind him, curious. Elena's lips curved into a faint smile. "We went to the same primary school. You were the kid who always shared his lunch with the strays. And with me once when my family couldn't afford it." The revelation hit Javier like a wave. Memories flooded back. A skinny girl with braids sitting alone at recess. He'd given her half his sandwich without a word. A small act forgotten in the haze of time. But Elena hadn't forgotten. "I've followed your story a bit," she continued. "Saw an article about your wife's accident. I'm sorry." The unexpected connection twisted the moment into something profound. Javier, still catching his breath, mumbled, "It was nothing. Anyone would have done it." But Elena shook her head. "No, not anyone. And that's why I remember you, your kindness, even as a boy." Sofia, emboldened, stepped forward. "My papa is the best. He helps everyone." Elena knelt to Sofia's level, her CEO armor softening. "I bet he does, pequeña. What's your name?" As they chatted, Javier felt a strange mix of embarrassment and warmth. He hadn't expected gratitude, let alone recognition. But this was more than that. It was a bridge across decades and social divides, reminding him that small seeds of humanity could bloom unexpectedly. As the evening deepened, Elena insisted on buying them churros at a nearby stall, turning the chaotic encounter into an impromptu gathering. Over the warm treats, she learned about Sofia's condition, The endless doctor visits, the mounting bills that Javier juggled alone. I'm fighting for her every day, he admitted, his voice cracking for the first time. But sometimes it feels like the world's stacked against us. Elena listened, her own story spilling out in quiet confessions. The climb from poverty to power, the isolation at the top, the hollow victories without real connections. I've built an empire, she said, but I've forgotten the people who made me believe in myself. Like you did all those years ago. Javier waved it off, but Elena's eyes gleamed with resolve. Let me help, she offered. My company has a foundation for medical aid. We can cover Sofia's surgery. Javier's heart pounded. Pride warred with desperation. He wasn't one to accept charity. I can't just take that, he protested. You've got your own life. But Elena pressed on, her voice firm yet gentle. This isn't charity, Javier. It's repayment for a debt I've carried. And more than that, it's what humanity should be. Lifting each other when we can. Sofia's eyes widened at the possibility, her small hand squeezing her father's. In that moment, an unexpected turn unfolded, not just the offer, but Javier's realization that accepting help wasn't weakness. It was allowing kindness to flow both ways. He nodded, tears welling, as the weight of his burdens lifted slightly for the first time in years. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of transformation. Elena's team arranged everything. The best surgeons in Barcelona, a private flight for the family, even a tutor for Sofia during recovery. Javier, initially awkward in this new world of luxury, found solace in Elena's genuine friendship. They shared stories late into the nights, her battles against corporate sexism, his quiet heroism in fatherhood. One evening, as Sofia slept peacefully post-surgery, Elena confessed a deeper truth. I was harassed like that before in my early career. No one stepped in. It hardened me, made me build walls. But you reminded me that vulnerability isn't defeat. Javier, holding her hand platonically, replied, and you reminded me that one act can echo forever. We're all just people trying to do right. The emotional climax came on Sofia's 8th birthday months later, in a sunlit park overlooking the Retiro. Javier, now with a stable job at Elena's company as a fleet manager, earned through his skills, not pity, watched as Sofia ran freely, her heart mended, laughter ringing like bells. Elena arrived with a gift, a scholarship fund in Javier's wife's name, for children like Sofia. But the true gift was the gathering, friends from Javier's barrio, Elena's colleagues, even strangers inspired by the viral video of the incident. As toasts were raised, Javier pulled Elena aside. Your first words weren't thanks, but they meant more. They saw me, not just the hero of the moment. Elena smiled, tears in her eyes. And your actions saw me, not just the CEO. That's the power of humanity. We're all connected, if we choose to be. In the end, Javier and Sofia's life blossomed anew, not through wealth alone, but through the bonds forged in that fateful evening. Elena, too, transformed, channeling her empire toward philanthropy that touched lives across Spain and beyond. Their story spread like wildfire on social media, inspiring countless acts of kindness, from strangers defending the vulnerable to communities rallying for the needy. It whispered a universal truth. In a world often divided by status and strife, selflessness bridges the gaps, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary legacies. And so, as the sun set on Madrid once more, hope lingered in the air, a reminder that one voice saying, "Leave her alone," could echo into a chorus of compassion, healing hearts, and uniting souls across the globe.